Okay, so the next set of the stuff in the units that we're going to be doing is all the different ecosystems, and we'll talk about characteristics of those ecosystems, and then I will also give you a PowerPoint that has pictures to go along with all of this so that you can see what the characteristics are like and have the pictures. As far as an exam goes, you need to know the characteristics, like why is tundra tundra, and why is grassland grasslands. Okay, so we're going to start with the tundra. So the tundra has basic characteristics. When we think about the tundra, you have extreme cold, low diversity. What do I mean by low diversity? Low diversity meaning you don't have a lot of diversity of plants and animals. They're very, very simple because the tundra is a really harsh place. Simple vegetation, meaning you don't have a lot of complex plants. They tend to be a few of the same kind of plants and a very simple structure. Limited drainage, which we'll talk about that in a second, and very short growing seasons. So we actually have two types of tundra. We have Arctic tundra, which occurs in the northern hemisphere. So think about Alaska, Canada, Russia. That's all the Arctic tundra, which is north in the world. In the Arctic tundra, we have permafrost. And the thing about permafrost is that the ground is frozen all the time. And so therefore, you don't have good drainage of soil. So when you don't have good drainage, it means then you have standing water. So if you think about Alaska, one of the interesting things about Alaska is that you have a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of bugs because of all that standing water. And so all the birds come from down in the lower part of the world, in the US for instance, and they go to Alaska and to the Arctic to breed because there's so many bugs and so many flowers and plants that are growing for 24 hours because the sun is up 24 hours, so they can feed their young for 24 hours and really get the growth of their young up, and then they can migrate back south. So your growing season though is short. It's only 50 to 60 days in the Arctic tundra, so plants have to really do their whole cycle in a short period of time. Precipitation, they only get 6 to 10 inches of moisture, which puts it into the realm of desert. We like to think of the Arctic as being very snowy and cold, but the reality is they don't get much precipitation. It just stays for a long time. Plants, some of the things to think about in the Arctic are things like shrubs, sedges, reindeer moss, reindeer lichen, grasses, liverworts. Plants that are fairly low growing because they can't take the Arctic winds. Animals, things like voles, lemmings, Arctic fox, Arctic hare, muskox, polar bears. So I'll have some examples of all the pictures for all the different animals that are in the Arctic tundra. Then if we go over to the Alpine tundra is more what we have here in Colorado. It's also found in most of the western states at high elevation. So it's high mountain elevation above tree line. That's what we consider alpine tundra. So the growing season is short, not as short as Arctic. It's 60 to 80 days. And again, same amount of moisture, 6 to 10 inches, not much moisture at the very top in the tundra. So if you think about climbing a 14er, for instance, a lot of times people will climb up there and there's not a lot of snow at the very top. It gets blown off because there's not much there. Plants in the alpine tundra are things like grasses, forbs meaning flowering plants. And the flowering plants are really small. You have to crawl around on the ground to see them. And we have the same kind of wildflowers down at lower elevations. So some examples will be elephant head. So I'll show you some pictures of elephant head. It's one of my favorite wildflowers. Has a cute little, looks like a little elephant head. In the alpine tundra, it only grows to about 2 inches high. But if you go lower in elevation, the plant can be up to 1 foot tall. We also have some shrubs and then some trees that are called Krumholtz trees or flag trees. Krumholtz are sort of twisted and dwarfed. Flag trees have all of the pine needles sort of wind blasted off of them, and so they have a kind of a flag look to them. So that they're very unique to the Alpine. And then the animals are things like pikas, which we know that's my favorite, marmots, mountain goats, bighorn sheep. If we had wolves, they would be up there. If we had grizzly bears, they would be up there as well. And so that's really the tundra. So look at the pictures that I have with it, and you'll see the differences between all of that.